the Fairfax Sports Report here on the Fairfax Sports Network. I'm your host, BJ Kubaroulis, alongside this wonderfully talented cast of sports writers docking in here with me tonight in the studio to bring all the local sports action from our hot football action on Friday nights to you at home, all stats and previews and interviews and more coming up in this Fairfax Sports Report episode. This is Paul Frummel of the Connection Newspapers, John Marcario of the Connection Newspapers, and power stirring with us here tonight, Dave Bushenfeld of the Times Papers. Welcome to this all-new episode of the Fairfax Sports Report. But before we get going, we want to thank the folks that make this show possible. And of course, guys, that is our underwriter, CCI Screen Printing, for all your screen printing needs. 703-978-0257. CCI Screen Printing, one of our special teammates. Hey, we're on the web, www.fairfaxsportsnetwork.com. We're all new on the website, guys, so go to the web to get stats, question and answer sessions with your local athletes, recruiting news, coaching news, and more on fairfaxsportsnetwork.com. You'll find wonderful biographies of myself and all these guys who are so excited about the episode here tonight, guys, an all-new football edition of the Fairfax Sports Report. I want to jump right into it, guys, and before we get into the Concord District standings, we have a great show tonight, guys. We've got Jimmy Bennett of West Potomac, 6'9", 285-pound lineman from West Potomac, coming off a win over Centerville. He's going to be joining us when we talk about the Patriot District, and we're also going to talk to FSN Sports football analyst Justin Creech, who did a recent question and answer session with Chantilly quarterback Austin Decker. You can get that on the fairfaxsportsnetwork.com. Before we get to those guys, let's show you the Concord District standings and who sits where after week one in the Concord District. Westfield, of course, no surprise, guys, with the big victory over South County.
Oh, boy, BJ, glad to see you still have your hair after last week.
I definitely still have my hair, and we're going to get into that bet, John Marcario. We're going to talk all about that game. Westfield with the victory. Chantilly 1-0 to start the season, right back from their state championship season where they went all the way to the state championship game. Came up a little bit short against Brandon Hogan and Osborne, but back for another successful season. And Robinson Rams right there, 1-0, the top three teams of the Concord District. Oakton with a shocking loss to Madison, the first time in the Outback Bowl in several years. We'll get into that. And Centerville, Herndon, and Fairfax all rounding it out with 0-1 records overall. They have not played district games, guys, at home. That's why you see there's no district records yet to speak of when we look at the Concord District and really the rest of the northern region. We'll be getting into district play as we come up through the rest of our weeks here in Northern Region football. Guys, started off right at the top, Westfield with a big victory over South County. Some of us here that thought South County was going to run away with that one. John Marcario, you get 10 seconds to explain yourself.
I can't explain myself. I made a small judgment error. It will not happen again. Next time I pick against Westfield, they will lose, though. Guarantee it. Lock it up.
Pick against Westfield.
Well, all right, so we tried to bail you out, but you go right back into it. Westfield could probably beat the Redskins this year, guys. And when you think about Westfield, we had Mike Glennon on during our preview show, and of course, Mike Glennon, the younger brother of Virginia Tech quarterback Sean Glennon. Mikey Glennon looking to take his team to the state championship. A lot of teams and a lot of coaches are talking about Westfield, but they don't, Dave. They don't just have Mike Glennon. He's got a good set of backs in the backfield with him.
He does. Brian Kennedy and Steve Tabbitt are two great backs coming back. But I think maybe the most important addition this season is the return of David Krutchko out on the outside on wide receiver. Caught 2 touchdown passes in their opening game. Had a horrific broken leg in, I believe, the 4th game of last season. But to see him back out catching touchdown passes is big for them.
You mentioned David Krutchko. I was at the game. It was the 4th game of the season. Westfield played Langley, and it was one of their lowest scoring games last season, and that's the game Krutchko went down. It was actually weird to see Langley, no offense to Langley, a good football team, but out of the Liberty District, really take it to Westfield. And talked to Coach Verbanek after that game last year, and he said really the injury did a lot more to the sideline than he thought it would. I mean, it was a really horrific injury. I was standing about 20 feet from him, and the kid was in a lot of pain, obviously. Everyone on his team saw it. The stands were kind of quiet, and it was one of those things that you just looked out onto the field, and you kind of looked at the situation, at his physical being, looking at his leg, and I didn't think this kid would, let alone be playing football, I didn't think he would be walking properly forever. That's how bad this injury was, and it was a sad sight to see. So to see David Krutchko get back after I think it was 6 surgeries where he got compartmental syndrome in his leg where they had to cut him open to stop the bleeding. This kid really went through a lot last year. For him to come back and hook up with Glennon for a couple of touchdowns in the first game of the season really does a lot for Westfield emotionally. But John and Paul, what it also does for Westfield, it gives them another threat as a receiver and another threat for Mike Glennon. A lot of people thought that when Whitmer left last year, Josh Whitmer, Glennon's prime target, that maybe Glennon's numbers might fall a little bit.
Well, when Crutchco left, a youngster came in to fill that gap, and that was Johnny Pickett. And he had a tremendous year. He was just a playmaker for the Bulldogs last year. So with Crutchco back and Pickett back too, it gives Glennon 2 solid targets.
Well, they're a pretty complete team. They've got almost their entire offensive line back, and you see 45-6 in the first game against a Pete Bendorf coached team says a lot. It says a lot about their talent and ability this season. A lot of people have this Westfield team pegged to win a state title. Of course, here on the Fairfax Sports Report, we'll be on that all year. Chantilly, guys, a team that did go to the state final last year and beat Westfield in the Northern Region final last year. Chantilly's a team that gets off to a good start in the first game of the season, 35-13 over Langley, guys. And, maybe they knocked off a little bit of dust. I know they had a lot of penalties in this game. Paul, you were at the game. Tell us a little bit about Austin Decker and the boys over at Chantilly.
Well, one thing you can take away from Austin Decker's first game this season at starting quarterback is he has the option down. He was making the right play every single time, keeping the ball when he needed to, passing it off to Torian Pace and Bugsy Euretia when he needed to also, and also Antonio Cross. So they have 4 solid running backs, and that is a good sign for the Chargers. Still need to knock off a little dust in the passing game, but that will come. Obviously, he has a great arm, and it's a good thing to see the Chantilly Chargers pick up right where they left off. One thing to note is Will Wilson on the Langley Saxons, and we'll get to Will and the Saxons when we talk about the Liberty District, but they ran away from him the entire time. They ran weak side, so they really only had half the field to work with, and they still did a great job.
Yeah, and they call Antonio Cross a kid that went over 1,000 yards last year. This is a kid they call meat. And they call him meat because they call it meat time. Every time they're up in a game, they just give him the ball, and he just keeps chewing away at it like a piece of meat. And really, I mean, the kid is hard to bring down. He's stocky. He's not very big, but he runs like a bowling ball, kind of hard to tackle. What did you see out of their backfield? Besides Decker, obviously one of the bigger names, they really went with that, as you mentioned, option run game. How do you play it, though, if you're Coach Mike Lally, when you've got 2 legitimately good backs? Pace could start anywhere else in the Concord District.
Well, it's one thing is Cross didn't get a lot of touches in the first game, and I asked Coach Lally, was he injured? I mean, that's your guy that got most of your touches last year. And he said he wasn't injured. I told him on the sidelines it just wasn't your game. He's an inside runner. They call him meat, obviously. He's going to break right inside. They didn't use him a lot. So they had this new kid, Bugsy Euretia, who was hurt all last year, worked really hard in the summer. This kid was a stud. And obviously Torian Pace as well. He was breaking runs. He had almost a 70-yard touchdown run. He has the speed and the size. So like I said, 3 solid runners besides Austin Decker, who is also a solid runner.
And speaking of Austin Decker, who was a receiver last year, now we go to FSN senior sports writer Justin Creech, who got a chance to catch up with Chantilly quarterback Austin Decker earlier in the week. Justin, you got a chance to talk to Austin. What did he have to say about their win over the Saxons?
Well, as far as the win over Langley, he felt pretty good about it. The 14 penalties he was concerned about. He thought that their strength, Langley's strength, was their offensive and defensive lines, but he said they ran the ball so well that they didn't have to pass. Obviously, they were able to control Langley's strengths.
What was Austin's thought on the passing game against Langley?
He said he really didn't have much to say about it. He said they ran the ball so well that they really didn't need to pass, so that's really what he had to say.
How do they seem to be dealing with the pressures of being the defending state runners-up in the Northern Region champions?
I think they feel good about it. And I asked about that, going into the season with higher expectations and being a marked team. He said that's something in practice Coach Lally is stressing to them, that they're going to have to go into every game with that, as their mindset. But he said he feels good about it, he doesn't seem too concerned about that.
One thing that I talked with Austin about earlier in the preseason and Coach Lally about is this is now his team, that kids are going to look up to him in the leadership role. What did he say about being the leader of this offense this year?
he feels pretty good about it. Having that experience in the playoffs last season, I think, is really giving him a lot of confidence going into this season. So, I think he's doing all right with that.
Austin Decker obviously was a receiver last year, Justin, and he's adjusting to his role as a quarterback. But I read in your interview with Austin Decker, which you can find on FairfaxSportsNetwork.com. Justin, in your interview, he talked about he's played the position before.
Well, the quarterback position?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, he has played it before. He played it his freshman and sophomore year, and he played wide receiver last year because he said he wanted to stay on the field knowing that he wasn't going to be the starter at quarterback. But he said that having played receiver last year really gave him a better respect and a better appreciation for what it takes to play the quarterback position as far as the timing with your wide receivers and where to throw the ball when they break out of certain routes and stuff.
Well, hey, Justin Creech, thanks for catching up with us here on the Fairfax Sports Report. If you want to read the rest of Justin Creech's interview with Austin Decker, you can go to FairfaxSportsNetwork.com. It's a heck of an interview, and Austin, a heck of a quarterback, obviously, guys, over at Chantilly. Justin, thanks for joining us.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
All right, guys, so, you take a guy like Austin, who was a receiver last year, actually a friend of the show as well, was on with us through their playoff run last year. And he's a young guy that took over in a tough situation last year for Nate Warwick. We all know what happened with Nate. Got a big concussion in the playoffs. And Austin stepped in and continued to get his program rolling to the next game. They made it all the way to the state final where Nate took back over and Austin goes right back out to the wide receiver role. What does that say, Paul, about a kid that's willing to basically do anything to help his team?
Well, it says that any butterflies that he would have for this season were gone. When you start your first start at quarterback in the Northern Region Championship game, and you win it against Westfield, I mean, he's ready. He obviously he knows he's ready. He was confident leading up to the season, and he showed it in the first game.
Dave, Robinson is a team that has a big game coming up this week, but they knocked the dust off against a former rival in Lake Braddock. Used to be a big rivalry when they were both in the Patriot District. Mark Bendorf's Robinson Rams off to a 1-0 start. Would you have thought any differently?
Some people would have. They lost a lot on both sides of the ball from last season, but I was very impressed with their win. They won 21-0 over the Bruins, held Shane Halley, the quarterback at Lake Braddock, without a completion in the entire game, and also shut down the Lake Braddock offense twice when they had the ball inside the 5-yard line, held them to a missed field goal and a turnover on downs. So they definitely have the defense to do it again. And a lot of people thought they'd be struggling on offense with the loss of Mike Meyer and David Lady. But they picked up right where they left off. Peter Ferrara, transfer out of Langley, he had 13 rushes for 124 yards and a touchdown. And then Alex Murray, the big bruiser in the backfield, had 15 rushes for 77 yards and a touchdown. So they seem to pick up right where they left off.
Oakton, a team that has not lost in the Outback Bowl in quite a while. They lose to Madison. Guys, that could be potentially the biggest upset, not only of the year, but in quite a while in the Northern Region. A lot of people have the West Potomac Centerville thing as an upset. I don't see that as an upset. I think right now, Oakton dropping to Madison in the Outback Bowl, Paul, you and Dave obviously getting a chance to see that game. What happened to the Cougars?
Well, Oakton head coach Joe Thompson would disagree with you. He would not believe it's an upset. He believes these teams are evenly matched. They come from the same area. Yeah, there's Division 5, Division 6, like he said, but he said it's a trap game for them because if they win, everybody says, oh yeah, Oakton was supposed to win. Since 2002, Oakton has beaten Madison. Madison's a smaller school. But if they lose, and like we said, huge upset, Joe Thompson thinks it wasn't an upset.
Dave, you wrote something for the website this week about the fact that Oakton used 2 different quarterbacks during the game. Do you think that hurt them, not allowing them to get in a rhythm?
I don't think so. I think it actually worked out pretty well for them. Each quarterback, Ryan Harris and Chris Coyer, they each bring something different. Harris does a little more of the passing. Coyer broke out and ran. Actually, the biggest play of the game, he ran for 74 yards, ended up fumbling at the end of the game. Thompson pretty much broke it down pretty simple at the end of the game that they were done in by their turnovers. They had an interception and 4 fumbles, and they were still within a touchdown at the end of the game, only lost 14-7, which is pretty impressive with that many turnovers. But with a lot of inexperienced guys, they're going to have to work some things out in practice.
One thing to mention with that was they were down by only 1 touchdown. They held 2 goal line stands against Madison. Both times Madison went without points. The first time they went for a field goal, and the snap was fumbled, and then the kicker picked it up and threw it in the end zone to tight end Harry Keys,
Right.
who was sure to catch it, but a Madison linebacker knocked it away to save a touchdown. And then again, on a 4th-and-1 situation, they stopped Madison running back Tucker Barstow for a 1-yard loss to keep it at a 1-touchdown game. Coach Thompson said, our defense kept us in this game. They gave us every chance.
Final score from the Oakton-Madison Outback Bowl. Madison 14, Oakton 7, one of the lower outputs for the Oakton Cougars and over the last 3 years offensively. They've obviously got some work to do, but that's a program that always seems to get back on track. And 4 fumbles, obviously, guys, and you still only lose the game by 7 points. We're going to talk all about the Madison Warhawks when we get to our Liberty District breakdown over the last week. So stay tuned for more Warhawk talk here on the Fairfax Sports Report. All right, guys, maybe that game was close, as rivalries often are. Herndon and Parkview from Sterling, a Loudon team, has been a rivalry. It's actually a rivalry that has started to bud a little bit more as they've played each other. It shouldn't be a rivalry because Parkview is a double-A team, and Herndon goes to Parkview and loses 37-7, Paul. These are teams that you've gotten a chance to cover. You covered Derek Dudinsky and Andy Hill out there in the Loudoun County area. Dudinsky, one of the better backs that ever came through the northern part of the state. Now he's gone. Everybody thought it was over for Parkview, and they drub up on Herndon 37-7.
They did lose Derek Dudinsky, but who they retained was C.J. Lazier, threw for a record, a Parkview school record in yards and touchdowns against Herndon. This is a rivalry, and I remember last year I went to the game when Parkview won last year as well, and Coach Andy Hill almost killed me when I said, weren't you guys scared you're playing a AAA team? He doesn't care. This Parkview team is great. With Dudinsky, they're amazing, and hey, they're still amazing without him.
Well, Herndon obviously is going to struggle being without 43 seniors, and Zay Lopez was one of their guys last year, now playing Division II as a quarterback up in Colorado. So all they've got left really is one kid with name recognition that we know of, Desmond Sifu, who really has the ability to run well, but he's missing 43 of his teammates from last year, so a little bit difficult for the Hornets. In Coach Joe Schaefer's first year, though, they're going to learn a little bit about themselves, and I think they're going to be a team that comes back. Herndon has always had the ability to be 6-4, middle of the pack. They've been 6-4, I think maybe 10 out of the last 12 years, guys. So we'll see that Herndon most likely will come back, and maybe you call it a rebuilding year over there for the Hornets.
Well, we'll see what they are made of next year when they take on South Lakes, another rivalry in a team we think they're pretty well matched against.
Next week, Paul. We won't have to wait till next year. We won't have to wait till
next year.
Week.
They'll play them next
play
year
them
as
again
well.
next year as well. Herndon versus South Lakes coming up on the Fairfax Sports Network. Coming up right now, John Marcario's breakdown of the Fairfax Rebels. John, Woodson Fairfax, you were at the game. You got a chance to interview the players and coaches after the game. This was a team, Fairfax, that most of us experts, if you want to call us that, we really thought Fairfax was going to run away with it, save one of us smart guys over there in Dave Bushenfeld. What happened, John? The Rebels were kind of the talk of the preseason. Everyone thought they had improved under their new coach.
After the game, head coach Chris Haddock for Fairfax was just almost stunned that his team lost 35-0 over the last 6 years. Woodson Fairfax has been a game that Woodson's won every year, but it's been under 10 points or less. In this game, Jake Sweeney, the Cavaliers running back, just tore through the line, ran for career-high 205 yards, had 3 touchdowns, all rushing for the game. Woodson's line was just too big. Fairfax fumbled the ball 3 times, all 3 times, deep in their own territory. They didn't even advance the ball to the Cavaliers' 40-yard line or under. They just could not have any kind of threat whatsoever in the game. It's a sad day for a Fairfax alum over here, but the problem in the game, in my opinion, this is just coming from a guy that picked South County to beat Westfield, is they didn't spread the field enough. They tried to condense everything in here. They didn't go that way. Everything was just straight ahead, right. No stretching out. And they would have 3rd down and 10 plays, run the ball. Woodson was stacking the middle and stacking their linebackers were coming up because they knew Fairfax wasn't going to throw the ball deep. The few times that they did, everything was to the sideline. Try slants down the middle. Try something different. You can't run Peter Miller, who's their senior running back. He had 66 yards, including a 28-yard rush every single play. You have to be more diverse and spread it out a little bit, and then maybe they'll get 7 points next time.
All right, and a long, long time ago, fellas at home, there was a young man sitting to my left with some gigantic sideburns that played for Tom Verbanek's Fairfax Rebels, Paul, and it was a different time during that time, kind of a golden age for Fairfax, if you will. a couple of coaches later, and they're getting blown out in what used to be a rivalry game, 35-0. That's gotta strike you as a little bit odd.
Oh, my junior year was the last year we beat Woodson when I played for Tom Verbanek. My senior year, unfortunately, was that beginning with the first year that we started losing to Woodson, and it's been a close game. And you see coaches come in and out, and I don't understand. And again, I'm allowed to say this because I am a former Rebel, and I love the Rebels, but what is going on? How can you lose? Mercy rule, 35 points to your closest rival. I mean, I know they say it's the Concord District. We can't compete in the Concord District. Yes, I know you cannot compete in the Concord District, but you should compete against your Liberty District foe, Woodson.
And I agree with what you're saying. On the flip side of that, I have to say it's a new coach who, was there as an assistant, but this is his first game as a new coach. I'm not putting it on him. I don't particularly think he's got the personnel, and you've already instilled your system now. First game of the season, it's a rivalry game. It's a difficult game to kind of knock the dust off, and you're under a new coach, a new system. It's a rivalry. That's a tough way for Fairfax to start every season, and then you probably have, at that point, a lot of people piling on saying, well, just another losing season for Fairfax.
Then lose 28-14 if you're knocking out this. And I don't blame the head coaches. I don't blame anybody. I don't know who it is. I mean, look at Bill Reckon, who came, his first year was my senior year. I thought he was a great coach. We went 5-5. By the way, that's still one of the best records they've had since. The thing about that is, you look at Bill Reckon now, he's an assistant coach at Chantilly. Oh, by the way, Chantilly went to the state title game.
Right.
I don't know what it is. Maybe it's I've heard that the FPYC Youth League is not as good as the CYA or the SYA, right, and you start young. But Tom Verbanek, head coach Tom Verbanek, coaches the Westfield Bulldogs, used to say, I prefer you come in as a freshman without playing football so I can teach you the right way rather than teaching you the wrong stuff. I don't know what it is. I don't know what the problem is, but I am tired of Fairfax going 1-9 and losing to Woodson. It's something that cannot happen, especially I'm still friends with a bunch of my football buddies from the day, and I told them, go to this game. It's time. Fairfax is coming back. Right. They came back and wanted to kill me.
So that's why you're mad. That's what it all boils down to.
And I say all of this with most love for Fairfax. Right. I love Fairfax. Obviously, I'm impartial when I'm covering a game. That's for sure. But I'm just looking at a scoreboard and saying, go Rebels. That's my team. So it hurts. It does.
All right. Well, one running back for Woodson. Sweeney goes off for over 200 yards in a 35-0 shutout. Your final score from the Fairfax-Woodson game. The Cavaliers run away with another victory.
Am I the only one that doesn't like seeing all these rivalry games at the beginning of the season? I mean, in the Robinson game I was at, penalties, turnovers, Oakton-Madison, penalties, turnovers. Let these guys play each other at the end of the year when they've got all the kinks worked out and they're ready to go. We got Hernan South Lakes next week. The week after that, Chantilly's playing Westfield. Those should be end of the season type of games, in my opinion.
I talked to head coach Gordon Live about that right before the Outback Bowl, and he said, Madison head coach Gordon Live, and he said, hey, first game, last game, it doesn't matter. It's a rivalry game, we're ready to play, and obviously they were ready to play.
Gordon Live, by the way, still scares the heck out of me. And he knows he does it, too. He's one of the greatest coaches, though, in the Liberty District right now. That super power offense upsets the Oakton Cougars. And, Paul, you've got a tidbit of news for us. They're throwing it a little bit more over there on the turf. We'll talk about that, too, coming up in our Liberty District talk. But for now, we're jumping in to the Patriot District. For all of you just tuning in, here we go. It's Annandale and West Potomac right up at the top, Dave Bushenfeld.
Yep, Annandale and West Potomac, T.C. Williams all won their opening games. Annandale had a pretty easy time of it, 33-3 win over McLean. West Potomac was pretty close against Centerville. I believe 14-9 was the final. T.C. Williams with a 14-0 win over Mount Vernon. The rest of the league had a little bit of a tough time. West Springfield led for a while against Stonebridge, ended up losing 56-36. Lake Braddock, as I said before, lost 21-0 to Robinson. Hayfield fell by a score of 14-9 to Marshall. South County, as we all know, lost to Westfield, John. And down there at Lee, lost to Edison by a score of 29-3.
All right, and Annandale, a team, Dave, during our football preview blowout last week, you mentioned Annandale as a team. You said don't forget about those reigning Patriot champions, Annandale Adams, back at it again under Dick Adams, really getting the job done in the Patriot District. There's another team, though, in West Potomac that's getting it done. That's a team as an early season favorite. Last week, all three of you guys picked West Potomac to win the Patriot District. I did not. I picked Pete Vendorf's South County Stallions. In just a minute, folks, we're going to get a chance to talk to West Potomac's Jimmy Bennett, who's going to set us straight and talk a little bit about our preseason picks. Jimmy, are you there?
Yeah, this is him. What's up?
Hey, Jimmy, BJ here with the Fairfax Sports Report. We all picked West Potomac. Well, actually, I didn't pick West Potomac to win the district. What do you have to say about that? And are you guys using kind of some of the preseason naysayers in the locker room to really get going?
Yeah, pretty much. That kind of gave us a big boost last weekend against Centerville. Just the fact that me and a couple other linemen watched you take South County, and we were like, hold on, we beat South County last year. So what are you guys talking about?
Well, hey, Jimmy, actually, I'm gonna pass the buck here. To my left, Paul Frumwelt actually picked the Wildcats to beat you guys last week. But, Jimmy, to be honest, you guys are a team a lot of teams and people are saying that was an upset. How do you guys see that game? A 14-9 victory over a Concord District team. Doesn't happen often when a Patriot District team beats a Concord District team. How are you guys quantifying that win after the victory? Do you see it as an upset?
No, we it's the same thing we've been saying all year. It's not an upset. It's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to come out and beat teams. We were supposed to come out and beat Centerville. That's what we did. We were ranked higher than them by you guys, and yet you still said it was an upset. It made no sense to us, and we just went out and proved it to everyone else that it's not an upset. We're going to prove it this weekend too.
And Jimmy,
we're not winning. Our winning is not upsets.
Obviously, from what I hear from you, just not getting the credit yet. And obviously, I picked Centerville to beat you guys, and obviously, you guys showed me. But when do you think you're going to get that respect that you guys deserve?
It'll probably take a win over Mount Vernon and Yorktown, and then I think when we face Annandale for our homecoming, that'll probably give us a legit sense of, respectability throughout the region, because Annandale's won our district. We tied with them last year, for the past 2 years actually. So after beating them, we'll probably have more of a sense of legitness in the region. Even though we feel we should have that, but not everybody gives it to us, so we're just going to go out and take it and earn it.
Jimmy, this is John. I'd like to thank your West Potomac team. That was the one game that I picked correctly last week, so I appreciate that. How important has it been for your squad to start out the season strong this year? Last year started out kind of weak, ended it extremely strong, just missing the playoffs. Did you want to carry over that hot streak into this year so you make sure you solidify that playoff spot early and not have to worry about other teams possibly winning or losing at the end to get in?
Yeah, pretty much. We're just trying to work. We're playing one game at a time. Our goal is the playoffs and a region championship, but we're playing it one game at a time. We have, our coach says it this way: we have 10 championship games in a season. We have one game each week. So every game's a championship. So we're not just trying to solidify us a playoff spot. We're trying to win every game, every battle. Shut out people, score 70 points a game. We're just trying to do the best we can every game.
Now, Jimmy, it's no secret that you guys have a pretty dynamic weapon in the backfield, and Josh Wells, one of the best running backs in the region. How much pride do you take as a lineman knowing that you're opening up some of the holes to let him run and pick up all his yards and touchdowns?
We all take a lot of pride in it, and he definitely gives us our props. And when he gets big yards, he gives us our props. Our coach gives us our props. And even though we haven't been as good as we were last year, but we're getting there. But we're not as good as we were last year on the line. But he's still got 100 yards, and we're trying to get him at least 200 a game. So we got to work our way up to that. I think last week he only had 107 on 26 carries, and usually he gets that on 10 or 15.
Yeah, I was going to say, Jimmy, when I was in the newsroom and the box score came in, 26 carries. I looked at my editor. I said, what is this kid, Larry Johnson? You guys are handing the ball off quite a bit, but your quarterback doing a heck of a job in there. At 6'9", 285, do you prefer the run block or the pass block, and why?
I'm not gonna lie. I do prefer pass blocking. I don't know exactly why. It's a lot easier on your body. I can tell you that. It's a lot easier than run blocking, but I just prefer pass blocking because I guess that's kind of what a lot of the colleges look at me for, is just because I'm more athletic and I can move my feet in space. I can get back. I can kick step. I can close off gaps faster than most other kids can.
Well, speaking of colleges, Jimmy, let's shift gears here for just a minute. You're obviously in the recruiting circuit as one of the bigger guys in the northern region and in the country. You got a lot of the top 20 programs coming after you, and I got a chance to talk to you earlier in the season. And on our website, you can read Win Ellington's interview with Jimmy Bennett, but you gave me a top 6 list: Connecticut, West Virginia, Boston College, Michigan State, Penn State, and Virginia Tech. All right, so the first week of football, college football, is in the books, Jimmy. What's happening with your recruitment, and which way are you swaying?
I mean, I'm not really. I guess I kind of cut down on some of those schools. I'm not really. I'm still kind of interested in Michigan State, but not so much. I'm not sure why. They're not as high as they were, and same thing with West Virginia. And I can tell you why, but I'd rather not put their business out like that.
Sure. And Jimmy, obviously recruiting is a fun part of the college, high school circuit, and you got a lot of scouts coming out to see you this year. Talk a little bit about balancing, that with, football and school and high school and some of the other stuff that goes along with that.
Just a lot of the questions is what pressures you the most, but pretty much balancing it just comes with just don't let it get to your head. Just leave it alone. Don't let that run your life. Just do what you would normally do, and then have plans that set up for college visits and for college calls, and let your friends ask you the questions they will, and let the teachers say, "Oh, congratulations on this, congratulations on that." Be the normal person that you are, but don't let that run your life.
All right, we're talking right now to Jimmy Bennett, future collegiate product and also future Patriot District champion, according to our experts here. Jimmy Bennett, thanks for joining us here on the Fairfax Sports Report. We'll be catching up with you soon, and we're going to start picking you guys. We're going to maybe see if we can elevate you a little bit in our weekly poll. Stay tuned, folks, to see our top 10 on this show later. Thanks for joining us, Jimmy.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Okay,
Thanks,
guys.
Jimmy.
I want to just add something real quick for people that might have just turned in and heard him chuckle. We said we want to try to score 70 points. Like, 70 points. Last year they beat West Springfield 81-74, scoring the most points in the history of a VHSL game ever. So they are very capable of scoring that many points. No joke.
And it's no joke what that program is. And they talked a little bit about the respect fact. And I think it's just because, they're in the Patriot District and not in the big Concord where all the big dogs sit. But guys, the playoff changed this year. Mm-hmm. The playoff system changed this year. And a team like West Potomac could get in there, whether they win their district or not, and really, really cause some noise. I think even if the same playoff system was intact, they still would get in there and make some noise this year.
One thing you've seen is when you think of the Patriot District, you're thinking of Annandale. That, at least for me, from covering Northern Regions football, I think Patriot District, I think Annandale, and I don't think of anybody else. And that's a problem. That's what West Potomac and South County is changing.
All right, we got a chance to talk to Jimmy Bennett. Let's see some of the numbers from the West Potomac first week victory over Centerville, guys. Dispelling the difference between the Concord and Patriot District. Look at these kids. They put up some numbers, Paul.
And quarterback Cole Walter, 21 for 21, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Running back Josh Wells, like you said, 26 carries, only 107 yards, still triple digits. Wide receiver Andrew Swinton, 1 catch, 71 yards, touchdown. So obviously they got some good backfield players.
All right, and you see the stats right there. They speak for themselves. And look at the 26 carries for running back Josh Wells. And you heard Jimmy Bennett, only 100 yards, guys. There's a lot of backs in the Northern region that wish they could say, well, I only had 100 yards last week.
Only about 7. What you see right there, though, Josh Wells and their quarterback play is what makes West Potomac a team you do not want to play in the playoffs, because they're going to get ahead early with the deep pass, and then they're just going to feed Wells. And if they feed Wells, if you give a guy 26 carries, only 107 yards. Well, you know what? That shows effectiveness. It's a couple of yards every single carry, 2, 3, 4 yards each time. First down, clock milks, game over. Wolverines win.
You see those 3 interceptions for Cole Walter, but hey, Centerville has one of the best defensive backfields in the region, so we can forgive that this week.
West Springfield loses to Stonebridge, 56-36. Heck of a game there. Kind of a shootout, and not a lot of people saw that coming. Most people probably thought that Stonebridge was going to whoop up on them. Some other news coming out of the Patriot District. T.C. Williams shuts out Mount Vernon 14-0. So a couple of teams in the Patriot District off to a hot start, and so are we here on the Fairfax Sports Report. We hope you'll come on back and join us for more here on the Fairfax Sports Report. Welcome back to the Fairfax Sports Report here on the Fairfax Sports Network. I'm your host, BJ Kubarulis, alongside of Paul Frummelt, John Marcario of the Connection Newspapers, and sports editor of the Times Community Newspapers. It's Dave Bushenfeld docking with us here tonight in the studio in Maryfield, bringing you all the new action from the Fairfax region and northern region sports scene. Guys, we got a chance to talk to Justin Creech about his interview with Austin Decker. We also talked to West Potomac's 6'9", 285-pound lineman Jimmy Bennett. And coming up soon, we're going to get all your Liberty District big upset. Madison takes out Oakton. We're going to talk about Gordon Lieb's power running game and some new offense from the Madison Warhawks that helped them take the win over Oakton. And we're going to talk about Ben Barber, quarterback, over for those Edison Eagles quarterback. Yes, you heard me correct. Ben Barber, a quarterback. We're going to get a chance to talk more about that. But for now, it's all about volleyball in our Fairfax Sports Network volleyball update. Guys, a lot of good volleyball teams in the area, and Paul Frummel, starting with Westfield, ranked at the top of the Fairfax Sports Network's volleyball poll.
Still at the top is Westfield. They did lose to Loudoun County, a AA team. But Loudoun County is one of the best volleyball teams in the state, so Westfield maintains the #1 spot. Langley with Megan Shiflett and Lisa Scott coming back stay at #2.
And just to interject here, they have not updated their records after the U-Crops, which was played last night, but Langley did get a victory in that. Herndon took the loss.
And then you get Centerville. They are right now 3-1. They had their first regular season game besides the tournament. They won their first regular season game over Lake Braddock. Centerville coming back strong, returning libero Jackie Moot. Chantilly right there at #4. They were #4 last week. And Herndon is new to the list, #5. Stonebridge was there. Stonebridge falls off. They also lost to Loudoun County. So Stonebridge is off the list. Herndon there at #5.
So the cream of the crop in this area is Westfield, obviously, as we have Monica Moore every week with us putting together that poll. She'll be back with us next week. But for now, Paul, Langley, a team right there in the #2 spot. Megan Shiflett, one of the best players in the area, playing for her mom, Susan Shiflett, over at Langley. And the Saxons and the Bulldogs, when and if they meet up, that could really be a good showdown.
Well, Megan and head coach Sue, Sue was the Northern Region Coach of the Year last year, Megan Northern Region Player of the Year, a nice tandem there, mother-daughter. They were 17-0 in the regular season. They lost to Stonebridge in the Liberty District Tournament Final, and then they lost to Centerville in the Northern Region quarterfinals. So they have a chip on their shoulder, definitely. And what you see from a team like Centerville is they won the Concord District Tournament, but lost to Westfield in the Concord District, in the Northern Region Finals. I'm getting all confused. So you got Centerville, you got Westfield. Both like to beat on each other, and Chantilly's there too. The Concord District is a great district for volleyball, but Liberty with Langley and Stonebridge, here's a fun little fact for Centerville fans. Centerville has Langley and Stonebridge in the same week next week, so we'll really see what Centerville is made of right now.
The Wildcats ranked at #3 in our Fairfax Sports Network Top 5 poll of the Northern Region. Go to the website to check out more news from FSN volleyball reporter Monica Moore. Guys, on to our FSN Athlete of the Week, something we do every week here on the Fairfax Sports Report. Robert McGregor of the Thomas Jefferson Colonials, John, a soccer and plays on the golf team.
The dual sport athlete, he helped Thomas Jefferson's varsity golf team. Golf is in season right now until October. They've achieved an overall record of 16-3 over the past 3 years. McGregor also helped Thomas Jefferson's soccer team to a regular season, Liberty District, Northern Region, and Virginia State title. Everybody expected that to happen. No big surprise there.
That's Robert McGregor accepting his state championship ring from the AD, Melody Modell, over there at Thomas Jefferson. The coach of Robert McGregor, George Malinek, the golf coach, and obviously Sean Burke, the soccer coach, was on the Fairfax Sports Report with us after that team did win the state championship. So McGregor, not only an athlete, but a heck of a student over at Thomas Jefferson, as most of them have to be just to walk those halls, guys. So Robert McGregor, you are our FSN Athlete of the Week. To find out more about Robert McGregor and how to nominate others for Athlete of the Week, go to the website at www.fairfaxsportsnetwork.com. Wealth of information on the web, guys. You should really check it out. We just did an overhaul on the website.
Jefferson sports are taking over Virginia.
And you're right, Dave. Actually, there's something to be said about Thomas Jefferson. I mean, they really are coming along. Look, winning the state title in soccer is not an easy thing to do in the Northern Virginia area. Most of the best soccer in the state is played in Northern Virginia. They won the district, region, and they won the state. That really says a lot about Thomas Jefferson. You know, a school where, you know, really kids go there for academics, but athletically, they're really coming along. And so is that pesky Liberty District. Most of the Division 5 teams of the Northern region live in the Liberty District, and Stonebridge has been the god of all, Paul, straight out of Loudoun County. Mickey Thompson's Bulldogs right up at the top of the poll.
Yeah, Coach Thompson's Bulldogs 1-0, scoring 42 points within 10 minutes. Stonebridge 1-0 overall. Madison right there in the Outback Bowl winning. They are 1-0. You see Marshall, they are also 1-0. And hey, Woodson's 1-0. Hey, South Lakes is 1-0. So you see the Liberty District has some great teams right now after the first week with 1-0 records. McLean, Langley, and the aforementioned Thomas Jefferson sit at 0-1 right now.
McLean taking the loss to Annandale was the first time the Adams and the Highlanders had met up since the 1970s,
There's
guys.
probably a lot of red.
There's a lot of red, and there was maybe that's why they haven't played it since 1970.
It was very confusing.
They just threw a lot of interceptions. Maybe they thought that was their wide receiver. All right, on a serious note, though, guys, one of the biggest upsets this year, Madison, the Warhawks take out the Cougars. You mentioned a guy by the name of Tucker Barstow. There always seems to be a young man that steps in and fills the role of the vacant running back in Gordon Lieb's superpower offense, Paul. But you said over at Madison, Gordon Lieb thinking about throwing it a little bit more.
Well, definitely, Gordon Lieb is gonna mix it up all the way around. He's got two great tight ends with Harry Keys and Ed Radford. So definitely, he has those options available. A note on Tucker Barstow. This kid really is about 160 pounds soaking wet. And he was just weaving his way through the line, gaining a lot of yards. And when he had to, he would get that extra yardage. He was extremely impressive for Madison.
Filling the shoes of Aaron Lambert, who was a heck of a running back last year. Ranier Bravo got a lot of touches as well. Now, you see Gordon Lieb's offense. Someone always steps in. Tucker Barstow, Dave, you got a chance to see this Outback Bowl.
Barstow was very impressive, got all the tough yards. Now, they still ran the ball, I think, about 39 out of 54 plays, but they threw the ball a lot more than usual. Quarterback Will Clarkson, he's a junior, didn't play at all last year as a sophomore, broke his ankle, so he's really only a sophomore in experience. He was 9 of 15 for 162 yards and both of their touchdowns. He looked very impressive, and after the game, Coach Lieb said he's going to try to throw the ball a little bit more than people are used to seeing them.
Stonebridge takes out West Springfield. No surprise there, but a lot of points put up by West Springfield. Is that a sign of Stonebridge's defense? Because it wasn't one of those things where Mickey pulled the kids and West Springfield started scoring. It was a bit of a shootout, guys.
Well, West Springfield always has a pretty high-powered offense, obviously with Lalek last year. One thing to note is Stonebridge came back again. Stonebridge was trailing by the half last year as well, so it shows the resolve of the Stonebridge team. New kids, but the same resolve to win.
Now, West Springfield, they scored the most points against Stonebridge of any opponent in the last 4 years. Madison had 35 against them. West Springfield had 36, so it's give or take a point, but that's still a lot of points. They fell behind early because they had 2 turnovers. Bryn Renner, West Springfield's junior quarterback, first game starting. Peter Lalek, quarterback the last 2 years, graduated, threw for 374, 3 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. Stonebridge has the marquee game of the week, though, as they travel to Robinson. Head coach Mickey Thompson was being a coach and said, I don't see anything or anywhere where we could take advantage of Robinson. And Robinson's head coach Mark Bendorf just said they're an extremely tough team, most talented and balanced team he's seen since they played Lansdowne in the 2004 Virginia AAA state title. It's going to be a good one. I foresee, though, Stonebridge win by at least 10 points, as I think they'll put up 31 against Robinson's tough defense.
And a quick note, you did hear it here first last week when Mickey Thompson mentioned David Wang was really considering, hoping to go to Virginia Tech. Well, he committed to Virginia Tech. He will join his brother Ed Wang there in 2009.
And we mentioned this is for all the recruiting news, tips, and notes, and we gave you a breaking story last week, and a couple of days later, David Wang, as you mentioned, the younger brother of Ed Wang, who is hurt right now at Virginia Tech.
He would have been the starting tackle, I believe.
And they're missing a lineman over there. But David Wang, a young man that has a bright future in 2009, he'll be playing at Virginia Tech. As of now, though, South Lake starts off the season with a win over Heritage, a AA team from Loudoun County. But nonetheless, John Ellenberger's South Lake Seahawks, with Scott Reed at quarterback, finally get a win to start the season. A great start in Reston. Let's jump into the National District and show all the folks at home exactly who's where after the first week of the season. And guys, is it any surprise that Edison is a team that still, no matter who you put in their way, they're still right up at the top. We got Falls Church, though, right up at the very top because it may be the last time you see them up at the top of the district standings. Because, look, Falls Church came out and their quarterback put up about 355 yards. So you got to give it up for Falls Church. And Edison, of course, led by Ben Barber, now at quarterback. Kid really plays lights out, if you know what I mean. And Yorktown, Wakefield, Washington and Lee, Stewart, and Mount Vernon, all right there in the National District. John Marcario, we talked about this in our football preview blowout. Ben Barber moved from wide receiver, a kid, one of the best in the region, if not the Northern Virginia, Washington, D.C., Maryland area at receiver. They move him to quarterback. We all kind of debated the move, but it did result in a win for Edison. Quarterback Ben Barber, 7 of 13, 95 yards and a touchdown throwing, 16 rushes, 54 yards and a touchdown rushing. So he's complete in both respects. Really can't throw the ball to himself, I guess you could say. But look, it looks like Edison, as we mentioned, puts their best athlete under center. Does that change our minds? I know, Dave, you were kind of on the fence about it. John, maybe a little bit against it because of recruiting. Paul, I don't remember.
Very much against it.
Very much against it. And you know what? I was a little bit indifferent. I wanted to see what happened after the first week. Is this a good thing for Edison, John?
I think that I was, as you said, I was under the camp that I didn't think it was a good thing for him on the recruiting front. He put up extremely good numbers against a good Lee team. Poor Lee, they got that tough early season schedule, face Westfield now in week 2. Barber, though, Edison at some point this season, is going to need him to play wideout because they're going to be down by a touchdown. They're going to be down by 2 touchdowns in a game. Drew Baldwin, the excellent wideout they have now, he had 5 catches for 81 yards against Lee. He's going to need to be on one side. They're going to need to stick Barber on the other side, and Brandon Suggs is going to need to be the quarterback. I predict it right now. At some point, he will need to play wideout, and he might be a little rusty. But for now, the move is paying off until they play that one game where he's going to need to go out there and just burn somebody for a touchdown.
Obviously, I don't know what's gotten into me today, but I'm not impressed by the numbers. I'm not impressed by 7 for 13 for 96 yards and 16 rushes for 54 yards. They need to get a gunslinger-type quarterback, and I know you can't just find a quarterback, but they have to have a kid in there who can throw the ball. Throw it up and let Barber do what Barber does. That sounds fun. Let Barber do what Barber does. Right. Really, seriously.
Absolutely.
Let him be a playmaker. I don't see these aren't playmaker stats.
Well, you look at the stats, and maybe you think they're not playmaker stats. I look at the stats, and then I look at the final score. 29-3.
Edison's
you don't have a
win.
quarterback in there making mistakes and giving the other team a chance to win. Coaches will always tell you it's all about who capitalizes on their opportunities, and Ben Barber giving his team an opportunity to win and not giving a lead team, who has been traditionally good on defense, a chance to capitalize on another quarterback maybe in there throwing up some picks like gunslingers, Paul, often do.
I mean, is Ben Barber going to make Ben Barber behind center? Is that going to make Edison lose? No, it won't make Edison lose. I like my Ben Barbers on the wideout.
Right.
If you like your Ben Barber numbers, though, they do play West Springfield this week, so he could throw for about 500 yards and rush for another 300 in that one. So if you're looking for big numbers, look out for this week.
And if you're looking for numbers, stats, recruiting news, and more, tune in every week to the Fairfax Sports Report, where you'll always find our new and updated Top 10 poll. You can find that on the website every week at fairfaxsportsnetwork.com. But guys, what they've all been waiting for at home, who's ranked where and what's changed after week 1, it's no surprise, guys. Westfield right up at the top, 40 points. And that's a unanimous #1 decision for Westfield by the voters. And Paul, Stonebridge, and Chantilly not far behind.
It's the Bulldogs up top, Chantilly right behind. That top 3 is going to stay there for a while.
West Potomac and Jimmy Bennett's team sits 4th. Ben Barber's Edison Eagles are 5th. They do play West Springfield this week. And there you see Robinson 6th. Stiff test against Stonebridge this week. We'll see if they can get their first marquee win in 2 years.
At 7, we got Madison with a very impressive win over Oakton in the Outback Bowl. And another impressive winner, Annandale, jumps into the poll. They weren't ranked last week, but they're up to number 8 after a 33-3 win over McLean.
Marshall, even without their quarterback, who will be out till about the 4th week of the season, Noah Sweet, he'll be out for the first 4 games of the season. And right there in South County, Pete Bendorf's squad, Paul, that's a young squad that did make our top 10, even though they got blown out by Westfield. That is the #1 ranked team.
They're still a good team, obviously, and And that was what was kind of funny. We think Westfield is that good that they could beat another good team like South County.
All right, let's see who picked what last week and where us experts went right and where us experts went wrong. Right there, you see.
Oh no.
The wins in bold, and there are not many to speak of, guys. I went 1 and 2. Look at the disparity there, guys. That's just ridiculous. Dave Bushenfeld from the Times sweeps in and goes 2 and 1 in his first week of picking games, and Paul Frummelt goes in with an empty set
now,
of the first week of pick'ems.
Hold on. Okay, no one can pick against Oakton. They have won since 2002. That's an easy pick. Obviously, they're two good teams. Oakton's an easy pick. I went with my heart with Fairfax. I'm an idiot for going with my heart. I said in the Connection newspapers this week, I'm not picking Fairfax until they show me they can play football. And then Centerville, I smelled an upset, which some people say would not be an upset. I smelled an upset. I was wrong.
All right, let's see what our hearts thought for the picks for this week, Paul. Anyone smell any upsets? Let's see what's on the docket for this week. It's Stonebridge at Robinson, Woodson at Braddock, and Oakton at Annandale. And you see the picks and the records there. Cooperulis at 1 and 2, Dave at 2 and 1, John at 1 and 2, and the goose egg on the end, Paul at 0 and 3. You can find these picks at fairfaxsportsnetwork.com. I'm going with Stonebridge. Dave going with Robinson. That is a risky pick, but one that you can afford, leading the league right now at 2 and 1. 10 seconds on why Robinson upsets, because it will be an upset Stonebridge.
It would be an upset. I liked what I saw out of them against Lake Braddock last week. I think the running game is solid. Their defense was phenomenal. You hold one of the best quarterbacks in the Patriot District without a completion, you're doing something right. I like them over Stonebridge.
All right, you know who always does something right? Paul Frummelt when he does the Loudon Report.
Oh, my goodness.
When he does the Loudon Report, it's just nasty. He just gets it done.
I just do it.
What's going on in Loudon, Paul?
It's going to be a very quick Loudon Report for everybody because we are running out of time. But I'm just going to give the top 5 football teams in the Dulles District. Now, this does not include Loudon Valley. This does not include Stonebridge. This is just the Dulles District. And at number 1, jumping up from number 2 is Parkview. Parkview showed me a lot in their win over Herndon. I thought they couldn't hang with Dudinsky. Without Dudinsky, they can. They're at number 1. Broad Run drops to number 2, but they still showed me a lot as well. 48-14 over Wakefield. I got Pot Falls number 3. They did lose to Martinsburg, West Virginia, 34-6, but I still like Potomac Falls at number 3. Now Briarwoods is 2-0, folks. The third-year program is 2-0 with a 40-14 win against Millbrook. Now, their schedule right now is a little suspect. Let's wait until they get into the Dulles District, but I like them as a solid number 4. And Dominion at number 5, beating up on Washington and Lee, 27-7. Other quick notes, Broad Run football player and baseball player Cole Shane will play baseball at William & Mary. And Loudoun County, we mentioned before, swept the Sherbet Raider Classic, beating Stonebridge, Westfield, and Sherando, 3 tough teams.
All right, guys, another tough guy on this set, part of our team, is John Marcario. And every week, he lets us inside of his brain for a little bit of that madness. Speaking of a little madness, he did pick Westfield to lose to South County. But making the connection, there's a Glennon at Westfield and a Glennon at Virginia Tech, John, and something is really grinding your gears about what's going on with Sean Glennon over at Virginia Tech.
There is a Glennon at Virginia Tech. I want to prefix this by saying I am not a Virginia Tech fan, so I don't want anybody who's a big Hokie fan saying, oh, you're only saying this because you're a Virginia Tech fan. But I'm getting very sick and tired of the media, yes, the media, making this Virginia Tech team out to be the cure-all Band-Aid of all the problems that are going on at Virginia Tech. Yes, they had a tragedy 4 months ago, but that has nothing to do with the football team. Sean Glennon, the current quarterback at Virginia Tech, is caught in a media circus of that team. During the team's first game against East Carolina University, it was supposed to be a somber mood. Yet every single time I saw crowd shots, they looked like any other football game, with people cheering and celebrating. And aside from prayers before the game, after game, and a halftime ceremony, you'd have never known that any kind of tragedy happened down there. This is a football team, and these are college kids. Nothing more. They are nothing more and nothing less. For people that are trying to make it out to be too big that they really are, don't. Again, these are college kids, and it's just Virginia Tech, the football team, not Virginia Tech, the cure-all Band-Aid for everything that's wrong with the university right now.
All right, John, and I agree with you to a certain point. Sean Glennon's kind of have to carry in the weight of the tragedy and about, bringing the program back and the team back and carrying the school back and more. I got a chance to talk to Irvin Garner about that, former Oakton wideout Irvin Garner, a redshirt freshman who's currently at Virginia Tech. Read my interview with Irvin Garner at fairfaxsportsnetwork.com. You can find more on the website. All our news, notes, recruiting news, interviews with coaches and players. It's a new website with a lot of photos and more at fairfaxsportsnetwork.com. FSN's Game of the Week, Herndon at South Lakes. That should be a lights-out game, a rivalry game. And this week on Channel 10, Madison at Oakton. You can also get these games on demand, Herndon at South Lakes and the Outback Bowl. See it on Channel 10. Previously taped on the 31st of August. Rise and Fios 1 Sports. Stonebridge at Robinson. That's right. Fairfax Sports Network is doing 2 games a week, guys, bringing you all the local action. Check our website for the broadcast schedule, fsn.com. CCI Screen Printing, 703-978-0257. One of our stellar teammates making shirts for the shirt-wearing public. All right, guys, we do this after every show. Who's your pick for state champion out of Virginia Division 5 and 6?
I'm going to stick with what I said before, Stonebridge and Westfield.
Edison and my beloved Westfield Bulldogs.
Stonebridge, Westfield, Fairfax this week.
In a deep slumber. Check the website for more here on the Fairfax Sports Network. Thanks for joining us on the Fairfax Sports Report, and tune back in for more every week here on the Fairfax Sports Report.